You're standing in what looks like a sun-drenched Mediterranean village. Whitewashed walls glowing in every direction, turquoise water behind you, palm-lined courtyards stretching ahead. You pull out your phone, and the location reads, Florida. That was town number 20 on this list, and the second you see it, you'll understand something. America is hiding places so extraordinary they barely feel real. 20 towns. Some look like Europe, some look like the 19th century. One still gets its mail delivered by boat. Every single day. We're starting at number 1, and we'll tell you right now, it only gets harder to believe the further we go. One, Galena, Illinois. Most of Illinois looks the way you'd expect it to. Flat, wide open, the land stretching out in every direction like someone ironed it that way. Which is exactly why Galena catches people so off guard. Tucked into the rolling bluffs of northwestern Illinois, this is a town that quietly escaped the passage of time, and not in a we put up some old-looking signs kind of way. Nearly 62% of its buildings sit within a National Register historic district. These aren't replicas or modern recreations. They're the real thing. And here's why the landscape looks so different from the rest of the state. The glaciers that flattened much of the Midwest never actually reached these hills. What they left behind is a dramatic stretch of countryside, winding valleys, rugged bluffs, and sweeping views of the Mississippi River Valley. It's a side of Illinois most people never expect to see. Honestly, most people don't even know it exists. Downtown, more than 125 shops, restaurants, and historic buildings line Main Street, a corridor that Fodor's Travel once named among the best in America. And walking through it, that recognition makes sense immediately. Ulysses S. Grant walked these streets. Abraham Lincoln spoke from a balcony here. That's the thing about Galena. History isn't something you look at from behind a velvet rope. You walk through it, eat in it, sleep inside it. It's the town that time genuinely forgot. And somehow, that makes it the one you'll remember longest. 2. Girdwood, Alaska. Most people driving south out of Anchorage don't even realize they're heading toward one of Alaska's best-kept secrets. They're just driving, following the Seward Highway because it's the route, not because they know what's waiting at the end of it. But then something shifts. The road starts hugging the coastline of Turnagain Arm, mountains pressing in from both sides. And suddenly, you're not just driving through Alaska, you're inside it. Dramatic cliffs to one side, cold tidal water to the other, the whole thing feeling a little too cinematic to be real. And then, almost without warning, Girdwood appears. It doesn't feel like a town. It feels like a small mountain community that got swallowed whole by the Chugach Mountains and decided it was perfectly fine staying there. Glaciers overhead, old-growth rainforest surrounding much of the valley, waterfalls you can hear before you ever see them. Here's the thing about Girdwood. It doesn't announce itself. No big welcome signs. No row of shops telling you you've arrived somewhere worth stopping, which is exactly why most people blow right past it. If you want to understand the real scale of what you're looking at, ride the aerial tram up at Alyeska Resort. It climbs high above the valley floor, and what opens up in front of you, glaciers, ancient forest, wilderness, stretching farther than your eyes can process, is the kind of view that quietly rearranges something in your head. In almost every direction, Girdwood feels like a place that hasn't fully decided to let the outside world in yet, and honestly, that's the whole point. 3. Leavenworth, Washington. If someone dropped a photo of Leavenworth into a conversation without any context, you'd say Bavaria, immediately. And honestly, you wouldn't be wrong to. Back in the 1960s, this struggling Cascade mountain town made a decision that sounds a little crazy when you say it out loud. Reinvent everything. Every storefront, every hotel, every public building got redesigned in Bavarian-style alpine architecture. Flower boxes overflow from balconies. Beer gardens line the streets. German restaurants, festive decorations, and alpine energy fill the air year-round. But here's what makes the whole thing work in a way you don't expect. The surrounding Cascade peaks look remarkably like the European Alps, so the illusion doesn't just hold, it has geographic credibility behind it. Even fast food restaurants are required to follow the town's Bavarian design standards. No exceptions. The town also shifts with the seasons in a way that keeps pulling people back. Summer brings outdoor dining and mountain trails. Fall explodes into Oktoberfest, and winter wraps the whole village in snow and fairy lights until it looks less like a town and more like a living snow globe. Millions come every year. Because Leavenworth feels like a small piece of Europe that got lost somewhere in the Pacific Northwest and never tried to be found. 4. Eureka Springs, Arkansas. There is no grid here. That's the first thing you need to understand about Eureka Springs. Roads curve with the shape of the hills, rising and falling through limestone bluffs like a maze someone forgot to finish. Buildings are stacked into hillsides, one entrance at street level, another several floors higher on a completely different street. It's disorienting in the best possible way. Dreamlike, almost. And unlike any town layout you'll find anywhere else in America, the historic downtown is listed entirely on the National Register of Historic Places. A ribbon of preserved Victorian architecture running through galleries, boutiques, historic hotels, and old stone buildings that look like they've always been exactly where they are. Natural springs tucked throughout the hills gave the town its name and its original fame. Put it all together. The Victorian buildings, the Ozark scenery, that impossible street layout, and what you get is something that doesn't fit neatly into any single category. Part fairy tale, part mountain resort, part architectural puzzle. Eureka Springs doesn't look designed, it looks discovered. 5. Beaufort, South Carolina. There's a moment, driving into Beaufort, where you start to wonder if someone arranged all of this on purpose. The streets are canopied by centuries-old live oak trees, their branches draped in Spanish moss that hangs like curtains above antebellum homes, white steepled churches, and quiet gardens. Everything has a softness to it, a deliberate, almost arranged kind of beauty, which explains, pretty quickly, why Beaufort has served as a filming location so many times. Almost every street already looks like a movie set before the cameras even show up. The heart of town is Bay Street and the waterfront, where preserved historic homes face the Beaufort River, and Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park gives you shaded walkways, river swings, and open water views that stretch toward the sea. But there's something that separates Beaufort from every other pretty southern town on a list like this. The beauty runs deeper than the architecture. The surrounding marshes, sea islands, and Gullah heritage give this place a character that no larger southern city can replicate. That's not something you can build or recreate. It's just there. History behind you. Calm river in front of you. Spanish moss moving slowly above you. That's Beaufort, and it's exactly as good as it sounds. 6. Port Townsend, Washington. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a town is the thing it never wanted. Back in the late 1800s, Port Townsend was convinced it was going to become one of the West Coast's most important ports. Wealthy investors leaned into that belief hard. Grand brick storefronts, elegant hotels, ornate Victorian homes spreading across the hillsides. The whole town was building towards something big. Then the expected railway never fully arrived. Development slowed. And in that stillness, something nobody planned for happened. The architecture survived. Today, Port Townsend holds one of the finest collections of Victorian-era architecture on the West Coast. Its historic district earned National Historic Landmark designation, one of the highest preservation honours in the country. Historic Water Street runs along the harbour, while preserved mansions climb the hills above, framed by views across Puget Sound, mountain ranges sitting on the horizon, and sailboats drifting quietly through the bay. The town never became what it set out to be, and that's exactly why it's worth going to see. 7. Telluride, Colorado. There are mountain towns. And then there's Telluride, which is something else entirely. Tucked inside a narrow box canyon in the San Juan Mountains, Telluride sits at the bottom of a natural amphitheater with mountain walls rising more than 13,000 feet on 3 sides. At the head of the canyon, Bridal Veil Falls, Colorado's tallest free-falling waterfall, cascades hundreds of feet down a sheer cliff face. No matter where you're standing in town, the scenery is just overwhelming. There's no angle that lets you forget where you are. And here's the layer that makes it even more interesting. This was once a silver mining settlement. Prospectors flooded this remote canyon chasing fortune, and the original buildings they left behind still line the streets today. So what you're walking through is this rare combination of Wild West history pressed right up against jaw-dropping mountains. A free gondola now connects the historic town with Mountain Village above. The views from it stop even seasoned mountain travelers cold. Telluride isn't just inside a canyon. It's trapped inside one of nature's greatest masterpieces. 8. Camden, Maine. Most places make you choose. Mountains or ocean, drama or quiet. Camden, Maine doesn't ask you to pick. This is one of those rare places where both exist in the same single breath. White sailboats and historic schooners fill a picture-perfect harbour, while forested peaks rise directly behind town. A landscape so composed, it almost looks deliberately arranged. Camden is commonly known as where the mountains meet the sea. One look at the harbour, and that title becomes impossible to argue. The harbour is the heartbeat of the whole town. Classic windjammers, working vessels, and pleasure craft create a timeless oceanic atmosphere that has defined Camden for generations. And if you want the full picture, head into Camden Hills State Park and climb Mount Batty. The summit opens into sweeping views across the harbour, Penobscot Bay, scattered islands, and the Atlantic beyond. One of Maine's most iconic panoramas, and one that earns the climb completely. Historic inns, seafood restaurants, rocky coastal drives, and classic New England architecture fill in the rest. Camden is coastal New England in its purest, most unfiltered form. 9. Dahlonega, Georgia. Before California ever became synonymous with gold rush fever, Georgia got there first. In 1828, gold was discovered in the foothills of Georgia's Blue Ridge Mountains, America's first major gold rush, years ahead of California's famous fever. And that history hasn't faded. It still anchors the town today. The historic downtown square centers on the Dahlonega Gold Museum, housed inside an original 1836 courthouse. And the spirit of those gold rush days is woven into everything around it. But here's what most people don't expect when they show up. Modern Dahlonega has quietly become something else entirely. The surrounding hills are now draped in vineyards, earning it the title of Heart of Georgia Wine Country. Rolling slopes, mountain scenery, and wine-tasting rooms create views that feel surprisingly European. And beyond the vines, Blue Ridge waterfalls pour through dense forests just outside town. Morning in a gold rush town, afternoon in mountain wine country, evening watching the sun drop behind the Blue Ridge, Dahlonega packs more into a single day than most destinations manage in a week. 10. Taos, New Mexico. Some places have history. Taos measures its history in thousands of years. Set against a vast high desert landscape and backed by the rugged Sangre de Cristo Mountains, Taos looks unlike anywhere else in America. Earth-toned buildings, wooden vigas, traditional plazas, and art galleries blending centuries of Native American, Spanish, and modern influence create a visual identity that is completely its own. You won't confuse this place for anywhere else. At the center of it all stands Taos Pueblo, a UNESCO World Heritage Site continuously inhabited for more than 1,000 years, making its multi-story structures among the oldest occupied buildings in North America. Outside town, the Rio Grande Gorge Bridge drops you hundreds of feet above the river, while desert and mountain stretch endlessly in every direction. Taos doesn't feel like a travel destination. It feels ancient and alive, a place that existed long before the world discovered it and will remain long after. 11. Hood River, Oregon. There aren't many towns in America where you can stand in one spot and have this much scenery competing for your attention at the same time. To the south, Mount Hood's snow-capped volcanic summit anchors the skyline, Oregon's tallest mountain, permanently present on the horizon no matter where you are in town. To the north, the Columbia River Gorge cuts through ancient basalt cliffs, its walls draped in spectacular waterfalls like Starvation Creek Falls and nearby Waclella Falls. And between them, the Hood River Valley fills every spring with thousands of acres of fruit orchards in full bloom, white and pink blossoms blanketing the hillsides as far as you can see. Then there's the wind. Strong winds funneling through the gorge have made Hood River one of the world's premier windsurfing destinations, which is why hikers, cyclists, photographers, and skiers aren't the only ones showing up here year-round. Within minutes, you can stand beside a waterfall, stare up at a volcano, walk through an orchard, and watch sailboards race across the Columbia River. Hood River isn't just a beautiful destination, it's an entire Pacific Northwest highlight reel, compressed into a single town. 12. Stowe, Vermont. If you asked most Americans to close their eyes and picture the perfect New England village, they'd describe Stowe almost exactly. This small Vermont town sits at the foot of Mount Mansfield, the state's highest peak, with a white church steeple rising above the village center, covered bridges spanning mountain streams, and historic inns tucked along tree-lined streets. It's the kind of scene that looks too composed to be accidental. The Gold Brook-covered bridge, built in 1844, is among Vermont's most photographed landmarks, a symbol of the rural heritage Stowe has carefully held onto for generations. Come fall, the surrounding hills detonate in shades of red, orange, and gold, producing some of the most celebrated foliage views in North America. And in winter, snow blankets the mountains, and Stowe becomes one of the premier ski destinations on the entire East Coast. Every element of the classic New England image, church steeples, covered bridges, mountain scenery, historic inns, exists here, arranged as if someone planned it that way. Stowe doesn't try to look like a postcard. It simply does. 13. Bisbee, Arizona. When most people think Arizona, they picture flat desert, sprawling cities, maybe a cactus or two. Nobody pictures a colorful Mediterranean hillside village stacked into the walls of a canyon. But that's exactly what Bisbee is. Built into the steep slopes and canyons of the Mule Mountains, it's a maze of brightly painted homes, winding staircases, narrow streets, and historic buildings stacked one above another along the hillside. It doesn't look like Arizona. It doesn't look like anything you'd expect to find in Arizona, and that's entirely the point. The town grew from copper mining in the late 1800s, expanding wherever the canyon walls allowed, climbing, stacking, and improvising in ways that accidentally created something visually extraordinary. When mining declined, artists, musicians, and writers moved in, filling the old buildings with galleries, cafes, and colorful studios. And now, every street reveals something you didn't see coming. A painted staircase disappearing uphill, a canyon of colorful homes tumbling into the desert. Arizona is full of surprises, but Bisbee is the best one. 14. Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Don't let the name fool you, because there's nothing modest about what's happening here. Nestled at the southern gateway to the Blue Ridge Mountains just north of Greenville, Travelers Rest has quietly transformed from a simple mountain stopover into one of the Southeast's most appealing small-town destinations. Most people haven't heard of it. The ones who find it can't stop talking about it. The Prisma Health Swamp Rabbit Trail runs directly through downtown, a multi-use path stretching over 20 miles and connecting the town to Greenville. Cyclists, runners, and walkers pour in daily, stopping to explore local breweries, restaurants, coffee shops, and boutiques along the way. And the whole time, the Blue Ridge Mountains sit there in the distance, providing a backdrop that quietly reminds you exactly why you came. The town still feels largely undiscovered, and for those who find it, for now at least, that's exactly the point. 15. Bourne, Texas. If Texas brings certain images to mind, wide open plains, big cities, bigger everything, Bourne is about to quietly dismantle all of that. Just 30 miles from San Antonio, Bourne delivers limestone buildings, tree-lined streets, German heritage, and a downtown so charming it genuinely looks like a Hallmark movie set. That's not an exaggeration. Founded by German immigrants in the mid-1800s, that European influence is still visible everywhere, in the architecture, the festivals, and the carefully preserved buildings lining the historic Hill Country Mile. That walkable downtown stretch is filled with boutiques, galleries, bakeries, and restaurants that feel personal rather than commercial, the kind of places that have regulars, not just foot traffic. And beyond it, rolling hill country roads lead to vineyards, wineries, and tasting rooms scattered across the scenic countryside. Put it all together, the German heritage, the limestone architecture, the wine country atmosphere, the storybook downtown. And what you get is a small European village that somehow landed in the heart of Texas and decided to stay permanently. 16. Woodstock, Vermont. 2 towns on this list come from Vermont. Both earn their place, but Woodstock is in a category of its own. If you handed someone a blank canvas and asked them to design the perfect New England village from scratch, they'd produce something very close to this. White steepled churches, covered bridges, a village green, rolling countryside, and 18th century buildings preserved with almost obsessive care. The middle covered bridge spans the Ottauquechee River right in the center of town, one of Vermont's most photographed landmarks. Nearby, the Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park adds trails, historic buildings, and sweeping countryside views that shift beautifully with every season. During autumn, the surrounding hills erupt into the kind of foliage that makes people pull over and go quiet. And in winter, snow-covered streets and festive storefronts make the whole town resemble a living holiday film set. Woodstock doesn't just represent New England. It is New England, the version people picture when they close their eyes and dream. 17. Friday Harbor, Washington. Some towns you drive to, Friday Harbor you sail to, and that alone tells you something. Getting here means boarding a ferry and crossing the spectacular waters of the San Juan Islands, watching forests and rocky shorelines slide past until the island quietly comes into view. The town itself is compact and full of character. Historic buildings, locally owned shops, marinas, and waterfront restaurants, all moving at an island pace that feels wonderfully removed from anything on the mainland. And then there's the water. The surrounding Salish Sea is one of the best places in America to watch orcas in the wild. Humpback whales, sea lions, seals, bald eagles. The wildlife here is staggering in a way that genuinely surprises people who didn't come specifically for it. Limekiln Point State Park is considered one of the world's finest land-based whale-watching locations, where orcas sometimes pass remarkably close to the shoreline cliffs. No boat required. You come to Friday Harbor for the ferry ride. You stay because of everything waiting on the other side. 18. Magnolia Springs, Alabama. Here's a detail about this town that stops people cold. The mail still arrives by boat, every day, along the river, one of the last year-round watermail routes in the entire United States, a tradition that dates back more than a century. That one fact says everything about Magnolia Springs. This small community sits along the Magnolia River in southern Alabama, and it operates at a pace that feels like it belongs to a completely different era. Moss-draped oaks, historic homes, quiet waterways. Nothing here is in a rush, and nothing is pretending to be something it isn't. The Magnolia River is the town's heartbeat, with historic homes and garden docks lining the banks, while visitors paddle beneath tunnels of oak trees, heavy with Spanish moss. Unlike Alabama's busier coastal spots, Magnolia Springs doesn't compete for your attention. It just exists, quietly and completely, on its own terms. 19. Cape May, New Jersey. Most historic designations cover a street, maybe a district. Cape May, New Jersey earned one for the entire city. The whole thing, not a section of it, not a carefully curated block, is a national historic landmark because of what happened after a devastating fire tore through in 1878. When the town rebuilt, it rebuilt in ornate Victorian styles. Brightly painted mansions with wraparound porches, decorative towers, and intricate trim lining entire streets. And that decision, made out of necessity more than vision, created something that now defines Cape May completely. Walking through it feels less like visiting a town and more like stepping into a living museum that somehow never closed. But what actually separates Cape May from every other beautifully preserved town on this list is that it gives you two destinations at once: Victorian streets and historic charm behind you, wide Atlantic beaches and open ocean straight ahead. Travel Plus Leisure has repeatedly named it among America's most beautiful small towns, and once you're standing there, that recognition needs no further explanation. 20. Alys Beach, Florida. Close your eyes and picture Florida. Now set that image aside entirely, because Alys Beach doesn't look like any of it. Rows of brilliant white buildings glow in the Gulf Coast sunlight. Palm-lined courtyards open onto elegant walkways. Clean lines, whitewashed walls, and enclosed patios create a visual consistency so complete that visitors regularly assume they're somewhere in the Mediterranean, Greece, maybe, or southern Spain. That reaction isn't accidental. Alys Beach sits along Florida's scenic highway 30A, and it was designed this way on purpose, drawn from Bermudian, Caribbean, Moorish, and Mediterranean influences. Every building follows the same careful design language. Same bright white walls, same clean proportions, same elegant public spaces that pull you further in. And then you reach the water. Sugar white beaches and turquoise Gulf water so vivid they barely look real provide the final piece of the picture. White buildings, clear water, Mediterranean feel, Florida address. Alys Beach is the closing argument that America still has places too beautiful to believe. 20 towns, 20 completely different reasons to pack a bag and go. The thing about beauty in America is that it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't put up signs or show up in the obvious places. It hides in canyon walls and covered bridges, in ferry crossings and gold rush squares, in towns that almost got forgotten and decided that was perfectly fine. Now you know exactly where to look.